Hey team, so we did a workshop recently and it was about learning the best ways for you and your body to either lose weight, drop some fat, get more energy, so balance your lifestyle, or also possibly put on weight or put on muscle, okay? So we're going to go through pretty much anything and everything, including all the basics, of course, to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident and knowledgeable to do that for yourself. So just some basics, okay? So the main thing is that I've been doing this for quite a while. My name's Dylan, by the way. I'm an exercise physiologist. I'm one of the owners down here at Coogee Beach Fitness Club. Is that it's really interesting, the terminology and the phrases that people will use and come to you with to explain that they are eating well, they're eating healthy, or they're eating balanced for themselves. So I guess I'm going to start with a few terms that I would love for you to kind of listen to yourself and listen to if you do say them, and maybe trying to understand a little bit more depth involved there. So a lot of the times people will say, I eat well. And then when we actually break that down, it's completely interpretive for them. So I eat well does not necessarily mean I eat balanced or I eat for what my body needs. I eat healthy, okay? So what does healthy mean? Again, a lot of people just throw that comment around when they're also coming to change their results, whether it's having more energy or sleeping better or trying to reduce some fat. So it's recognizing the terminology or the phrases that you might use to explain the food you eat or your diet or your approach to your nutrition, and recognizing that sometimes those generalized phrases just do not work. It's like saying I'm okay. It doesn't really go there. So what we want to do is work on the hierarchy, okay? So what do we need to look at to possibly change our body composition or change its shape to increase my energy? So the way, and again, this is basics, it can go so much deeper than that. And please also appreciate, and I do need to say this, I'm not a nutritionist or a dietitian. I'm knowledgeable in this area and I love it, but I'm also a numbers person. Okay, so I just tinker with numbers, and you'll understand what I mean a little bit more with that later. But for the basis of this, I'm going to go through the basics that I believe that everybody should know, and I do believe that everybody should be educated in this, but we don't necessarily get educated in this. So at the top, or the bottom, depending on the way it works. So it's a reverse triangle. So the top is the most important part. We've got calories. If you don't understand how calories work as far as in and out, you really will get stuck. And this is where I understand there's a bit of an argument around calories, and some people go, oh, you can't talk about calories, you can't talk about numbers, you'll get obsessive. That's your prerogative if you feel that way, but everybody needs to know about calories, especially as far as the body goes. If you need to go on a holiday, you need to understand what money is. And that's the way I like to look at it. If you want to get from A to B, whether it's from here to New Zealand and you have to get a flight, you need to know what money is and how much you need coming in. You need to know how much is coming in. You need to know what's going out for all your day-to-day bills. That's just calories, okay? So the way that I would love for anybody to get from A to B is to learn about calories, to appreciate what calories are and how they work and how food works in general. And then it's just, you can look at food and just understand a little bit more of going, okay, that's probably that kind of caloric intake, or that's what my body needs, or this is what, if I'm feeling a bit sluggish, maybe I can look at my calories and recognize I may be over, I might be under, something like that. But ultimately, if you want to change your body shape, you need to know what calories are, or go to someone that can amend that or knows what it is and can adjust it for you, so you don't really have to do the thinking. Under that, we have macronutrients. So macronutrients are proteins, carbs, and fats. Sometimes people throw fiber in the mix. I'm not a fan. I just don't do that, okay? So we just want to look at the balance of protein, carbs, and fats. Please appreciate the protein is the building block of our body. It's just a big bunch of Legos. We have carbohydrates, which I mean from natural sources, whole foods carbohydrates. Most people think that carbohydrates are purely processed things like bread, pasta, rices and stuff like that. So we're still, ideally, they are that, but we're talking more about whole foods in all of the conversation. We also then have fat. So fat, again, can be the fat on a steak. It can be the fat in a piece of salmon. It can be the natural stuff. It can be the avocado. So it can be the nuts. Ideally, again, we want to go towards whole foods because they're better fats. I'm not going to get into the depth of that today, but just aligning your protein, your carbs and your fats to give you a result. I'll go into the depths of what having higher protein, maybe lower carb, lower fat would be ideal for you. I'll do that soon. But for now, just know that that's part of it. Then below that, we have micronutrients. So micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals that we need from all the food that you get involved, that you eat every day, to give you the baseline, really, of your health, of your cellular health. We're talking more about body composition today and changing your body. So we're going to focus more on calories and macros. Then once you align those, you can align your micronutrients as well. It's eating different colors of food. It's even different types of food. It might be eating grass-fed. It might be eating organic. It might be that kind of stuff as well. Below that, and this is the 1% stuff that's, I'd say a lot of people focus on more than the others. We do this in a lot of areas of life, but this is where supplements come into place, okay? Come into play. Ideally, once we assess those top 3 elements or top 2 elements, we can recognize if supplements are needed, hence protein powders. I'm not going to go too in depth with this. Again, there's other people that are better suited to it, and I just want to focus more so on calories and macronutrients today and how we can influence those to get results. And then there's also timing of meals, fasting and all this other kind of bits and pieces. They're the 1%ers. They're things that you can do to assist you, but ideally if you were to look at your calories and macros, you will understand if you really need to do those things. So today the plan is to not only give you the knowledge, so what, how to use that, obviously why you're going to use that, and then also how to create results. So really simple stuff. I'd love to be the base of your knowledge. Some you may already know, some may be conflicting to what you already run by, but just know that in any field, especially in science, I might give you this information, there's going to be some more to kind of contrast or negate that on the other side, okay? So the journey, what are you even doing this for? The whole point is to go from where you are right now to somewhere you want to be, whether that is energy, whether it's to drop some fat, whether it's to put on muscle, it's all that kind of stuff we've already talked about. So it's recognizing that whatever you've done in the past is whatever you've done in the past. You are where you are right now. You can change from right now moving forward. Not fluffy stuff, just the truth. So a lot of people don't understand how we actually create change in the body and get these results. And a lot of my prac students and even staff sometimes, if I was to say, hey, why do we use exercise to create change, or how does it actually work? They go, that's just what happens. But they don't know the intricacies of how we're using exercise as a vehicle to create a physiological change in the body, which creates results down the line. So movement is just a form of stress. Okay, it's a stress response to the body. So stress hormones, such as cortisol, for example, they're utilized. That's what we do. We just create a stress, we create a response in the body, hormones then adjust to that. So that creates that hormone response. Without going too far in depth, most beneficial hormones for us with regards to like bringing us up and bringing our energy up, they are in an inverse relationship with our stress hormones. So what we do with stress hormones is, for example, with cortisol, is we want to bring cortisol up, but we want to also bring it back down through good nutrition, through recovery. As it goes up, those builder hormones usually tend to come down because cortisol's doing its job, but as cortisol gets brought back down, those builder hormones go up. So we have this ebb and flow of life, completely normal, right? The benefit of using exercise and any form of movement to create that is we create this undulating effect where the baseline of your hormone levels and your neurological responses and all that kind of stuff, that baseline comes up. That's what giving you more energy is. That's what making you feel good is. That's what changing your body composition. It's all based on bringing that baseline up. And that's something we really want to focus on, is that it's just the progressive, sustainable change by using movement as our main vehicle to create stress in your body, which creates those hormone shifts, which we then utilize rest and recovery and nutrition and all that kind of stuff to create a result and a change in our body. That's how it works. There's so many more layers to this, but again, please, if you can understand and appreciate that, you'll go so far. You'll go so far. The next thing is consistency will beat intensity all the time. Okay, if you can combine consistency and intensity, you're doing quite well. But in today's day and age, with the demographic of our gym as well, most people come in red hot, try and focus on intensity and just smash it out the park. Whether you get injuries or whether it's just not sustainable, I would love for you to try and think about more, as in more days of lower but consistent work where you do challenge yourself, but consistency will always beat intensity. Tortoise in the hair kind of stuff. And then, of course, how do we understand what's going on in our body and how to change it? So, of course, you need to assess where you are. Again, look at your bank account, go, I need more, or I need less. Let's be honest. But you need to assess yourself. So that's why we have the body scan machine inside. It's free for all members. That gives you metrics. It gives you baselines. It's not perfect. It just paints a picture of where you are right now with regards to your age, your bio age. It's pretty cool. It gives you that stuff at BWI, so not BMI. It gives you a body wellness index based on all your internal metrics, like your muscle compared to fat, your visceral fat and whatnot as well. And it paints that picture. And then what that does is it gives us information, including your basal metabolic rate and your ideal energy expenditure for the day. And we can utilize that information to create a meal plan, to create change, to create education around how you can switch up your life, your food and your training to get the results you want. It's really quite simple. It's quite that simple. So again, you would combine the metrics, so the body scan. There's other ways you can do Q&As, so you can just do writing, you can do calipers. There's so many different ways you can get. There's DEXA scans. We then want to combine that with advice and knowledge, so that's why we're here, or the vast amount of people that are around the world trying to give advice. But you need to find something that clicks with you, or find someone that you trust. And then of course, the one interesting part about exercise is you have to do the work. You know, if I go to the accountant, I pay him the money, he does the work for me, that's great. But the thing is with exercise is you have to actually do the work after getting that advice. And what helps you do the work is accountability. Again, most of us as adults or young adults or older adults, is we get to make our own decisions. And a lot of the time when we're habitually just telling ourselves, no, we can do that later, we can do that later, there is no accountability there. And we become our own worst enemy. But there's nobody really telling us that we should stop doing that. So that's why we're here. That's why personal trainers exist. That's why it's just more for a booking. We of course have knowledge, but let's be honest, it's more about the booking, the accountability, the rocking up and the getting it done. And it's amazing what that can change in your week too. So, and that's how you get results. So I was talking about the 3 questions that I asked to align people with their goals and how they actually want to get there, instead of just saying, what are your goals? So one of the little quick things I do, instead of just asking, what are your goals? If I ask, what are your goals? Imagine I just said that to you now. You think in the future, you go, what do I want? And that kind of fabricated, not real, not feeling life, kind of probably, it all sits there in the place where a big McMansion lives, in a nice boat, and a trip to Italy or something kind of lives. It's not, there's no emotional connection to it, it's just a want. But if I say, what have you really wanted for your body that you felt over the last 6 to 12 months, you probably might think, you might think of when you felt really sick and you were, oh God, I just wish I had my health better. Or when you didn't fit the pants that you wanted to get into and you go, this just sucks. Or when you got a sore back trying to pick up your child or your grandchild or something like that. It feels different, and that's what that's one of the things I do, is I try and think about what people can feel and what aligns with you, so that becomes a real tangible outcome goal. I sent out a workbook, which I can easily send you. If you've watched this, you just have to email me. And it was inspired by Mel Robbins, who was on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and she's very renowned in her world of inspiration and psychology. But she has a stop, start, continue method. It's really simple. You just go back over most elements of your life, and you reflect on the year that's been, or a certain period of time. You note down what you would stop with regards to a specific goal that you want. So I habitually, I'm going to call it an emotional eater. I've got 2 young girls. As far as me time goes, I don't really get too much. I come to work, I give a lot of my energy out, and then I might get a little bit playing tennis or something with some mates, But as far as any other decisions, just do whatever I want, whenever I want, it doesn't really exist. So what is one of those areas that I can manipulate? It's food. So if I'm craving something, or if I feel like I've had a crap night, or I'm just feeling whatever, what can I do? Okay, I'll just feed myself some crap food because I crave ice cream, or I might want chocolate. So I refer to myself in that respect as a bit of an emotional eater. So that's something that I would choose to stop. There's then start and continue. I think in the order it actually goes continue, then start, but whatever. So one thing I do enjoy doing is playing my tennis. So I'm going to continue that because it's really good. It's good for my health. I'll continue doing that. It's fun. Doesn't feel like a burden. And what do I need to start? So because I was playing that tennis, I was getting more into that, I stopped doing a lot of my strength training. So I am going to go back to my strength training. So I might start/restart that. And it can be as simple as that. You can obviously add more depth, but that to me is pretty quick and easy fix for the next 2 to 3 months, that I can just adjust that, and that's going to be an improvement for my life in every element. So it's about acknowledging the past, appreciating where you're at, and then changing it, and what you recognize you need to change. Then there's the minimum viable quantity. So this combines with what I call the golden rule. The golden rule is pretty much rock up to the gym, and if you still want to leave, then leave. Okay, it's get out of bed, do the hard work, do the hard yards, get to the place you need to go, whether it's Manning Park stairs, or you're going for a ride, or you're riding to work, or something like that. Like, do that baseline of getting up and doing the hard part. And if you still want to go home and you're just like, this is just crap, this isn't for me today, then go. That's fine. But for the majority of the time, you've done the hardest part. You might do something when you're there. So that's the golden rule. The minimum viable quantity will be different for everybody. For some clients or patients that we work with, it might be walking to the door 3 times a day. It might be walking to the end of their block. That's all they've got to do. Walk out the door, walk to the end of the block and back, and you're back. And that's the minimum amount that you've done, but it's better than what you were doing. And that is a great start. Majority of the time, of course, you will build on that. I tend to use, it's not the best wording, but I say, what would you feel like, how much would you have to do or not do to feel like a failure? and then let's just do that minimum amount every single day, because that's I don't have to do 45 minutes an hour. I just have to do my 3 minutes, for example. You might do a 1 minute plank total hold, or whatever it is. It's just having a minimal viable quantity and reframing this. So for you, it feels like every single day you can do that, and then progressively those habits will build and they'll build. So there's a few different styles to actually achieve and continue and be consistent with movement, because it's not that fun for everybody. It's, for a lot of the time, it can feel like a burden, but it's for an outcome, it's for a result, which is fine. That's completely cool. If you're doing it for a reason, it's your prerogative. But the more you can click into that and make it a normal part of your day, the better off you'll be. So some people really enjoy it. You just enjoy it. I just love going to the gym. It just feels good. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go do a class or whatever it is. You are awesome. Great, you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, but you know you've got to do it, you can automate it. So what I mean by that is you just go to the gym, you do the work, and you leave. You just put it in your day, it's slotted in, you do the work. Then there's kind of a hybrid of the two. So I don't really like doing the movement side of things, but what I do notice that I get out of it is, or like what I do like about it is being around other people. I like getting up early and being out in the sun. I like making friends. I like having coffee after I feel like I've done something to achieve it. So that's where you start to go, okay, what do I actually like? Who do I like? What do I like doing? I know what I want to do. What can I actually do together? And that's why classes exist. That's why you might bring a friend along and a gym buddy, and you might get the work done. So that's where you start to recognize, okay, cool, I procrastinate. Okay, I need a booking time. That's why I'll go to a class. I'll always find something more important. All right, a class is perfect for that, or a PT, or a coach, or in some way, shape, or form, you might just find something. So whatever works for you, you might be a hybrid, you might enjoy it, or you just need to automate it. The main thing is getting it done. So diets and fads. So I'm going to go through a few here and what the most important element, or what the main change ingredient of those fad diets are, and it'll give us the outcome and the main outcome of what we need to focus on to change our health and get our results. So let's look at keto. So for example, I don't want to call it keto a fad diet, because it's not a fad diet, but it kind of sits in that umbrella where most people have kind of looked at it or tried to understand it a little bit. So with keto, we want to look at aligning our macronutrients. So our protein would be 25 to 35% of our day, if not even a little bit higher. Our fat would be 50 to 65% of our daily, and when I say daily, I mean daily caloric intake, and carbohydrates will be anywhere as low as 5 to 15% of our day. So in that, we ideally, and this goes for every type of food plan, we always want to try and eat whole foods and better quality ingredients, depending on where we're at. Time-wise, energy-wise, financially, it can influence that, okay? There's always a best and there's always a not so best, but they're still on a spectrum, okay? So you just get to kind of plonk yourself where you are. The main thing with keto is we're eating higher protein, we're eating the higher calories, we're balancing that out. We're also, with the protein, we've got more satiation, we feel less hunger from that. And what the body naturally does have is this really interesting thing where, with regards to sugar and carbohydrates, when we put it into our body, we crave more of it. So we're actually going super low carbohydrates, which you saw or heard, sorry. So what happens is your body starts to remove those cravings a little bit more, or they just become a little bit more psychological instead of that real need and urge for that food. So that's keto. Okay, we get more energy and our intake from proteins and fats. So like I said, very high fat, ideally natural, and then lower carbohydrate. It also starts to run off the premise that you will start using fat as more of your energy source, and again, high protein, high fat. It can, if you're training a lot, it can result in lower energy bursts. So again, I'm going to go into a bit of an analogy here. Ideally, your muscles, picture your muscles as sponges, okay? Water is carbohydrates. We need carbohydrates to go into the sponge as water and absorb that and be full. When we do higher intensity exercise or bursts of exercise, it wrings that sponge out. But we want water to be in that sponge pretty much all the time, okay? But like anything, if you don't wring out that sponge, then that extra water just falls off to the side and turns into other things such as fat tissue and whatnot. So your job is to wring out the sponge as often as possible. A lot of people also don't know that when we're just sitting at rest, like right now, I'm just burning fat. I'm not burning carbohydrates, I'm not really burning sugars, like a little minimal amount, but for the majority, it's fat. I think we've been educated, or for some reason just started thinking that all we're doing right now is burning carbohydrates all day. It's only for the bursts. So that's why a lot of people will reduce their carbohydrate intake first and then, or increase their protein, which will of course reduce those other bits and pieces. I can comfortably say that after assessing a lot of meal plans of men and women, that people who have said, I eat well, I eat healthy, I eat balanced, they would be up towards 60 and 70% carbohydrates in their day. Extremely low protein, and then fat's usually second. And that's where the biggest change, we start to up the protein, and that of course has to reduce the carbohydrate intake from there. So we've got the Fast 800, Michael Mosley, or the Fast 1200 that he was kind of doing that for a while. Again, what is that? So he's heavily reducing caloric intake. It's why people can feel extremely lethargic doing that. But the whole base is to give you a massive deficit, a caloric deficit, to lose weight, and then also getting the right macronutrients into you. So it's very, very protein and fat focused, very low carbohydrates, very low carbohydrates and very low calories. So again, we can look at that and go, okay, what are we focusing on? We're focusing on a calorie deficit, higher protein, higher fat, and low carbohydrates. Okay, cool. Again, I'm not against carbohydrates. It's just recognizing what they do in the body. And a lot of the time, people, the result they want is to lose fat or lose mass. There's other people, of course, that want to gain, put on muscle, different age, wherever you're at, different body shape. We'll go into that in a moment. One thing with this is, of course, low energy. You've got very little caloric intake coming in. You've got those low carbohydrates. If you are trying to train or go hard in the gym or training for some kind of marathon or something, this is going to be a pretty not deliberate, focused diet for you, but it will get you the results. You may just not feel great doing so. Also, something to note, especially with very low calorie diets, and also this time of year, well, I'm recording this in January, so we're past Christmas, past New Year, where we've all been consuming a little bit more, is ghrelin. So ghrelin is essentially a hunger hormone, let's call it that tells us that we are hungry and we should eat. One thing you may note, if you really check in with yourself, is when you eat more, and eat, especially with carbohydrates and sugar, you crave more of it and you feel hungry more often. It's one thing to recognize with ghrelin is it can be trained. It's ghrelin the gremlin. Imagine it's a puppy dog. It can be trained, okay? And one thing that we do during consumption periods, or we have more, we're training it into wanting more. So it keeps telling us, okay, no, we're doing what you're doing. You want more of this. So that's why at the beginning of any form of change, especially low calorie, one of the responses can be, oh my God, I'm just so hungry. I'm just hungry, because it's used to what you're used to. And it's finding ways to get through those bouts or those real struggles, whether it's drinking more water or keeping yourself busy, go for a walk or something like that. And a good reflection point is, have you ever worked a 12-hour day, 14-hour day? Maybe you've got children and you just couldn't even think about food. And ghrelin doesn't really kick in because there's something bigger than that going on. And that's where people talk about boredom hunger, or open the fridge and have a sign there saying, you're not hungry, you're just bored. So it's recognizing that there are ways around that, and that you can train it to just chill out. It does take a week or two, which is why so many people struggle in that first time, or never actually get past the first week or two, because you're trying to retrain that response. If it fits your macros is another one. So if it fits your macros is really result dependent, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. It means that protein, carbs, and fats, we just focus on the percentage and a certain amount of grams for your day. We don't focus on calories, but we do know, because of the calculations with if it fits your macros, that we're getting the right amount of calories in a day, and we've got a balance there because we're thinking about grams or / percentages. This has been really big over the last 10 years, and you'll find it kind of has its place in almost every weight loss approach. It just really took off because there was no bad foods. It was just, you could eat whatever you want as long as it fits your macros. So you might have like a donut, a piece of fried chicken from KFC, and a nice coffee, but if it fits your macros, it's okay. Whereas most other diets, we're thinking about whole foods, we're thinking about consistency and longevity, and we're thinking about the micronutrients that comes from whole foods. Whereas an if it fits your macros approach it's just purely focused on protein, carbs, and fat. So let's look at that. We might get results, but do we feel healthy? Do we feel better? It really depends on what your focus point. Everybody's so different. Some people feel healthy by losing the weight, and some people will eat more balanced by eating like that for a certain period of time. But in my opinion, my humble opinion, longevity or a long period of time of eating like that, if you were just eating crap but it fits your macros, you're not really going to feel too great. But it's flexible. It works to get results. It also works for really any type of eating. It could be more keto approach. It could be high fat, it can be vegan, it can be vegetarian, it can be pescatarian, it can be anything like that. So it just works because it's scientific, it's numbers based. So we also have just restrictive. So one thing that And to go back to if it fits your macros, again, they usually do focus on a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of fat, and then carbs as well, balancing out. So again, focus on higher protein, higher fat, or just mainly higher protein, and then balancing out the fat and the carbs based on what you do in a day. Restrictive is usually only low carbs, low fat, whichever one it is, right? We've had the battle over the last 20, 30 years of fat's bad, carbs bad, fat bad, carbs bad. And that's why you see low fat stuff, which is usually high carb. And you have low carb, which is usually high fat. And that's the way they kind of balance it all out. But the one thing from that is there's still a focus on protein. That's the main thing. It's kind of like if we want to change anything, we focus on protein and we focus on calories. So again, the protein aligns with the increased satiation, feeling less hunger, and also increased recovery. So just to go over a couple of things with this. You can obviously see there's a theme of if we increase protein, everything else kind of balances out. And there is, again, a lot of research, a lot of science, I'll try and link some for you as well, that shows that as long as your protein is up, it doesn't matter what carbs and fat are, everything else is fine. You'll still get to exactly where you need to. You'll feel good, your body will operate. However, the fats and the carbohydrates will just influence how you feel more so, but your body won't. Your changing shape or you're losing a fat won't really be affected. Again, there's conflicting research and all of that, so please recognize you're taking this with a grain of salt. It's just about focusing on the increased protein. Like I said before, when we're sitting and we're chilling for the majority of the day, when you're sitting at a desk and working, you're just digesting fat. You're using fat as your main energy fuel. Hormones, which are everything for us, especially, well, for men and women, but of course women have more of a cyclic approach, so it's more undulating. Hormones are primarily made of fat and protein. They get moved around and they enter into cells through using carbohydrates and sugars in their own kind of way, but they're fat and protein based, which is so important. Again, if you think about neurologically, if you're feeling fatigued, a lot of that time that can be hormonally, but again, we can feel neurologically fatigued or exhausted as well. Nerves are made of myelin, which is a form of cholesterol, which is fat. So we recognize that. I like to work backwards and go, what do we need this stuff for? Again, protein, Lego building blocks, we need that for recovery. We need that to sustain our muscle. It's also good for satiation. And I mean protein, not just from meat, I mean from anything. We also have fat, which is our glow. So our nails, our hair, our skin, that's our glow. Okay, if you think about that. And of course our hormones and our carbohydrates is our fuel. But only for those to move things around inside of us. And it's more, what is your life looking like dependent. So we need the protein all the time, we need the fat all the time. Carbohydrates is more, what is your life looking like? We need that to facilitate that. Cravings usually come from that sugar/carbohydrate thing. If we don't have a balanced meal, it'll bump it back up. I'm not going to say that if you eat more protein, you crave more protein. That's the interesting part about it, is if we have more protein, have more fat, we just tend to have less cravings in general. But if we have higher carbohydrate and high sugar, we crave that. It's really interesting. It's also just checking in with yourself. So let's work backwards. So ideally, what would a really good sustainable meal plan look like? Is something that is non-restrictive for you. Something that you can eat what you want, but of course in reason. You can't just eat a block of chocolate for breakfast and ice cream for lunch. You need to be able to enjoy the foods you enjoy, but recognize if you're just kind of pulling the mickey a little bit, okay? So you just want to make sure that balance is there. If you don't like certain food, for example, if you don't like Brussels sprouts, there is another way to get what we want from that in the way of proteins, carbs, and fats, and the micronutrients in there. It's the same as being in the gym. If you can't squat with a barbell, we can use the leg press. There is always another way that we can get those macros or micros into your body. If obviously you don't want to crave food all the time, you want to feel balanced and sustained and not have energy slumps. That's how we utilize the macronutrients of foods and when you eat it, or how much you eat in a day as well. Like I said, when you eat it is a little bit of a less important thing, but how much you eat in a day and progressively building on that to balance that out. If you want balance every day, just day to day, I usually advise 30% protein, 35% fat, and 35% carbs. Okay, that's of your caloric intake, which again should be, specified. We want to find out what that is for your body. And that is just without thinking about how much exercise we're doing. If you were to eat like that from majority whole foods and good sources, you would start to feel balanced, you would start to possibly sleep better, you would feel like your energy is more aligned and you don't have those slumps and whatnot as well. Also might recover quicker. So from all of that, we need to align our calories. We want high protein, and there are two main things to change anything in our body, and then the fats and the carbs kind of come along for the ride and are influenced by the exercise or what our life looks like. So, change. How do we change it? So remember, there's always a transition phase. It's kind of like if you're rolling down a hill, you've got on a bike, imagine this, or in a car, you've got momentum. So you need to slow down. We need to reverse the wheels a little bit. So that's why the transition phase is the most difficult. It's when you might really struggle, you feel hungry, you feel cravings, you get headaches, you get angry, all this kind of stuff, because your body is adjusting to what you've been doing for so long. And it usually takes 1 to 4 weeks. It can be a long time. And that's just purely about changing the movement that you do. It might be changing the food that you eat. It might be the changing when you wake up, the exercise that you do. So just to go back to basics, let's simplify this a little bit, and metrics, okay? We want to assess ourselves, whether it's a body scan, calipers, there's calculators if you don't want to jump on those things. We need to understand our basal metabolic rate and our TEE, which is our total energy expenditure for the day. And we utilize those numbers by eating above, ideally, our BMR, and utilizing that total energy expenditure for the day to either reduce, stay the same, or gain. What I mean by that is, if I wanted to lose fat / lose weight, I would eat above my BMR but below my TE. That is called a caloric deficit. You may have heard that before. If you wanted to stay exactly how you are, you would eat the same amount of calories to your TE, and what we would do is align your macros. So we would align your protein, your carb, and your fat to have a more of a physiological difference of how you feel. If you wanted to gain, we would have a calorie surplus, and again, we would align the macronutrients as such for that as well. Like I said, you want it from whole foods. We want to have different colors. That's what paints the picture of the type of micronutrients you're getting from your foods, and of course, having better sources. We then include exercise and exercise type, and that might be cardio, that might be strength, and that influences the amount of calories you burn in a day, and a week and a year. It's also about the consistency over the intensity. And once we include your exercise, that's where we go, okay, cool, we need to adjust your macronutrients ideally. And how you feel will also adjust that. But as long as that protein is up, then that's great. And NEAT. So NEAT is our non-exercise activated thermogenesis. Okay, so this is our day-to-day accrued interest of parking further away from the shop and just kind of walking a little bit further, or taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or it's just that day-to-day stuff where we just want to level that general movement up. This is at 10,000 steps a day kind of stuff. James Smith, if you've ever heard of him, he's quite infamous in this field, but he does really go back to basics. He's got NEAT up 24/7. You know, that was his thing. It was a big booster for him becoming really quite well known as well as the way he communicated. And it's just about making every moment outside of the gym an activity-based approach, whether you're walking around your house or whether you, like I said, parking further away. So that's really, really important there. And then it's finding a process where you do what you need to do consistently. And if you can do that by yourself, great. Again, using that style, that type thing I said before about enjoy it, automate it, or kind of hybridize it. Or you get someone and you book them. It's really that simple. That's not overcomplicated. It's just making yourself somehow accountable and getting the job done. Whatever works for you. So men versus women, this is always a fun one. I joked when I did the workshop about getting cancelled because that's the day and age we live in today. But please appreciate this all has scientific backing. It all has psychological backing. It's quite interesting, really. So with men, it's better, or it has been shown to be better for them to move first and then align their health elements later, such as their food and their recovery and their sleep. I'll go into why in a moment. Whereas women, it has been shown that if they align their life first and then move, it actually gets them further. So what I mean by that is they might delve into the whys of why they're doing something. They might do the stop, start, continue approach, and they'll look at that. Or they may have to align work. They might do a weekly planner, or their children, or their husband, or their partner, or their boyfriend, whatever it kind of is. They need to align their elements first and try and change their nutrition as well, and then they will exercise next, okay? So with men, it tends to be focused on, to get better results, focus on numbers. So record what you lift. Always try and progress that way. They don't mind training by themselves. They'll have a tendency to just be like, I'm just gonna do it, I'm gonna do it my way. That stubbornness that kind of comes through. But it's noting that recording it and doing it by themselves, that is the majority of men. However, they will also have a tendency to compensate for their training with food. or drinking, whether that's alcohol or otherwise. So what I'm saying by that is if men go and just get it done, then they'll go, I'm getting it done, I can do it on the flip side as well. And that tends to be a bit of a struggle with most men. Whereas women, they need to see and feel the difference. So that's why if I was to go, okay, cool, we want to get some results, go try on a pair of jeans that might used to fit you, and that will be the inspiring factor. Or also hear the difference. So they might look better, they look fresher. I tell my wife, if she's looking like she feels better, postures up, that feedback for them, for women, for the majority, is also really quite important as a progressive thing. Men also love that too, but it's just more, women need to feel the difference, whether it's energy, whether it's sleep, whereas men want to see the difference a little bit more as well. Women also tend to be more social creatures, okay? So that's why 70 to 80% of the group training industry is women, okay? Men, like I said, stubborn, do their thing, just get it done in isolation, whereas women tend to be those social creatures, hence why they'll go, oh, cool. They're the first person that usually want to bring a friend. They need that accountability, which is also why a lot of the time women will stick with it for longer than men. It's really interesting, but they need those factors, that accountability. As long as they are aligned and they stick together, they will always get further. If not, that's when it drops off. So what do we do for the best ways to kind of get results for men and women differently? So men, just do the work and record it, okay? Have a structure, record it, always be progressing, always be changing, always try and get stronger, but be open to help. Okay, be open to help in the ways that will keep and will bring on those extra factors such as food alignment, energy, recovery. Once you unlock that part, which men are so damn stubborn, we all are, it's amazing just when results will actually click, but you got to get over that part first. Women tend to, again, I'm generally speaking here, okay? I'm bringing the research from psychology and just general movement. Do the work beforehand, prep, align, still move while you do this, but just low key, and then get into an environment that supports you, that you feel good being in. Maybe take a friend, maybe do classes, maybe get a program, maybe get a PT, whatever that is, just move and lift stuff and feel strong, okay? And sometimes just trusting someone else, because men and women, we've got so much to think about as adults. One of the greatest gifts I've said is that an adult can just rock up, get told what to do, trust that they have the knowledge and the science behind it and the premise of why we're moving, and do the work, and then align everything outside of that. And you can get some incredible results. You can feel amazing if you align those two things. So, planning your perfect week. Ideally, you want to move 10,000 steps minimum per day. Dr. Kelly Starrett, Doctor of Physiotherapy, on this amazing podcast, I should link it actually, was talking about how we all got a bit obsessed with 10,000 steps a day, thinking that it was more about general health, and that was what we needed to, as a minimum to maintain our weight. And I think it always kind of comes back to weight for some reason. But his influence was more that it was a neurological input, and that our bodies are designed that 10,000 minimum steps a day keeps it on the bare minimum of just progressing. We're not degrading or we're not going up, but 10,000 is our bare minimum to sustain life. And a lot of what he was talking about, discussing, which I found so interesting, was so many elements of pain and discomfort in the body come from this fact that we, over time, will do less than 10,000 and accumulate it. That's massive, okay, across the year. If you do 6,000 steps a day, so you're 4,000 under for the year, do the math on that. It's just ginormous, the amount of steps less. So that's that neurological input that's not coming, and our body feels like it's kind of in a degrading, I was going to say degradative state, but I don't know if that's actually a word, in a degrading state instead of just holding baseline or growing. So that input is hugely important. You can delve down that one if you want to. Strength, lift heavy stuff, put it back down, don't overcomplicate it. You want to do this 3 to 4 times a week, depending on your results dependent, okay? Everybody's going to be different, but you want to do this minimum of 3 times a week. Again, it needs to relate to your why. As we age, we need to do this even more, or just stick with the same amount, but be as consistent as possible, okay? Women, your bone tends to degrade a little bit quicker than men. And of course, with menopause and whatnot as well, that will kick in, your hormone shifts will change things. Strength is so important. Lift heavy, move well, and be simple. Just do the work. Obviously, age and gender. As we get older, we need the neurological input. We need the strength input. We just need to stay strong. It keeps us working. We just need it. Okay. There was recent research that came out that showed the biggest relationship between strength and age and health was grip strength. Again, like every bit of research, you've got to take it with a bit of a grain of salt. What to me that really shows is that using anything with your grip related to your strength is so important. You can't just walk around gripping stuff all day. But with that comes strength. If you're gripping a barbell, if you're gripping your shopping, if you're gripping when you guard, and it's just so important. Okay, so just being strong, and that relates to the grip, and the research is there to show that. Long, slow distance. This is your cardiorespiratory system. This is the best way to get this is to play a sport, a group sport or a single sport, or enjoy running or enjoy jogging or enjoy swimming. This is the best way to get it. Or, like I said before, enjoy it, automate it, or make it something you do as a team. 1 to 2 days minimum. Okay, you just need to do that. Why? It's not only recovery, it's so good for the endurance, it's good for the heart, it's good for your physiological things to balance out as well. Okay, it just keeps you going, it burns those calories, it keeps your whole energy ticking. And mobility and recovery, 1 to 2 days minimum, but ideally every day. Your body is your vehicle. You need to treat it well. You should be doing the work to move well for your entire life. One of the biggest things that we've gone wrong with in the Western society is we just sit on chairs that are 90 degrees. If you go to more of an Eastern cultures, let's say that. If you go to Asia, they always sit in that full range squat at the bottom. They have such a lower occurrence of hip, knee, ankle issues, low back pain, because they have that beautiful range of motion and the ability for the body to sit down there as well. So the more range of motion you can have with function and strength, the better off you'll be. And then, what do? We be consistent, 80-20 rule. Okay, in case you're one of those people that goes, I do really well on the weekdays, but on the weekends I splurge a little bit. It's a big one. So I would say that for the majority of people, the weekend starts on Friday. So you've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday of whatever you do, and the weekdays are Monday to Thursday. So you're almost on a 60-40, 40-60, really close to 50-50, let's be real. And that's why a lot of people don't get results, because they think they're doing well during the week and not great on the weekend, but it's actually not weekend. It's actually 4 and 3. Be a human, fail, try new stuff, experiment, try fasting, try different foods, do whatever you want to do, but your body is yours to play with and tinker with. And the more you just mess with it and have fun, you'll find what works, fail, and then try again and continue, ask for advice, research, do those things. Just tinker with it. The more you can try and make it a fun, enjoyable experience and learn what you don't like, then the only thing that gets left behind is what you do like. It's awesome. And get help and support. If you don't know something, ask a question. Get support, go to people you trust. Ideally, I can be one of those people for you, or any of the staff. But yeah, just try and get support, knowledge. There's so much out there. It is so oversaturated at the moment compared to any time ever before, where it's more about finding a person that you trust, and the tone and the education and the way that they share it for you that sticks with it. Don't have 5, 6, 7 gurus. You don't want that. Okay, just have 1, maybe 2 that you trust, that you go to, and go with that and play with it. So in summary, understand yourself psychologically, physically, and physiologically. So the stop, start, continue, ask yourself questions about maybe why things haven't worked in the past, and then assess your composition, your physical side of things. Okay, create a real goal. Like I said before, I've given you ways of how to do that, and align with that goal and be sustainable. Recognize it's 3, 6, 12 months, and it's an 80-20 approach. Appreciate the metrics involved. Like I said before, what do you want to change? Do you want to change your overall weight? Cool, that's calories. Do you want to change how you feel? And again, the type of weight that you hold between muscle and fat, that's macronutrients. Do you want to change how you feel day to day? We need to include micronutrients in that as well. And we can just start adjusting those things progressively. It's a journey. Just don't rush it. If you rush it, it just won't work. Simple as that. The journey's meant to be the fun part, like figuring out, and the doing, that's meant to be the bit that you enjoy, because that's always the part you remember. What style are you? Do you enjoy it? Do you need to automate it? Do you need a hybrid approach it? Figure that one out. I think you'll know pretty quickly if you do or do not enjoy it, and then if you don't enjoy it, you can automate it, or you just hybrid it. What feels right for you regarding diet and nutrition? When I say feels, you're the only one that knows what your body feels like. Do you feel bloated when you eat certain things? Do you feel sluggish when you eat other things? When you undereat because you think that might be better for you, do you feel like crap? When you have certain food, if you have 1 beer, does it feel good? If you have 1 wine, does it feel good? Cool, let's create some balance around that and align it. So the specifics, these are the actions you've really got to take, because everything's about action. Assess your body, get direction, advice, and support, and of course then do the work. Yes, I had to check my notes, but that's the stuff. If you're alone, awesome. If you want support, we'd love to give it to you, or find somewhere where you feel supported, that you can do the work, or get a coach. I say the Batman effect, something I learned in the past. It's awesome. It's saying that, if you were to tell your child to clean their room, they'd go, oh yeah, cool. They probably wouldn't do it, right? But if Batman did, or again, I'll give you what I mean by the Batman. If Batman did, they'd go, okay, cool, straight away, let's do this. So it's about finding your Batman, find out who you listen to. My example in the workshop was, I gave someone a program, awesome program, put so much time and energy into it. Like, a program can be perfect. It's just about who does it and how they do it, right? didn't listen to a word I said, didn't do it. And then I talked to them a little while later, but they'd got these amazing results. So what changed? And they go, Jennifer Aniston said that the best way to get toned arms was to do X, Y, Z. And she did it. And that's her Batman. So that is the approach of, whether that can be me or whether someone here or someone outside, doesn't matter. Just find someone or something that you trust and the approach, and keep doing it. I hope that's given you a bit of a basic insight into the basics that I hope you should know and align with you for the rest of your life. I wish everybody knew this kind of stuff. But if you have any questions, drop them below and any comments where this is hosted, or just come and chat to me. I love to chat about this stuff. I love to talk about your approach with it and how we can create change. So thank you for listening. Have a good day.